So, the K1 visa process can be incredibly complicated if you don't know where to begin. Do you hire a lawyer? Do you use a third-party website? What paperwork do you fill in? And which visa center will your application be sent to? And how long will it take to process? I'm not an immigration lawyer, nor am I associated with USCIS, but my partner and I thought we'd share everything we learned from the process to give you a personal, up-to-date guide by creating a series of step-by-step tutorials for the entirety of the K1 visa process from start to finish. If you're at a stage like my fiance and I were and feeling completely lost with so much misleading information online, I want to break everything down to save you money and to ensure you're approved in the most timely and cost-effective way while sharing all the things no lawyer will ever tell you and all the hacks I've learned along the way. Step 1 begins with the I-129F form, which is the heart of the K1 visa process and the initial step of beginning the K1 visa journey. We have a detailed video on our channel on how to fill out the I-129F extensively, where we break it down step by step so you don't have to pay for a lawyer or third-party company. The aim of this form is to prove the relationship is valid and is to be filled out by the American, also known as the petitioner. We didn't use a lawyer, and you definitely do not need to hire a lawyer for the K1 visa process. A lawyer is going to cost you between $2,000 and $4,000, and they're going to collect and ask for all the same information that the USCIS forms will do. We didn't want to risk a stranger filling out our application and risk them delaying our application by making mistakes such as spelling errors, accidentally not entering something correctly. And as an FYI, using a lawyer doesn't equate to your case being expedited or processed any faster than the current wait times. The form can be downloaded on the USCIS website. Just make sure you're downloading the latest version of the form. So let me run down the requirements for the I-129F form. 1. The fiancé must be a U.S. citizen, as this is a visa issued to a foreign fiancé of an American citizen to enter the USA. You'll need proof that your partner is a U.S. citizen, providing evidence such as a photocopy of their passport or birth certificate, etc. We provided both the passport photocopy and birth certificate, even though one form of evidence is sufficient enough. 2. You must prove that you've met at least once within the 2 years before submitting the I-129F. Examples of items that you can include are photos together, boarding passes to see each other, or photos with family. I highly recommend using photos with dates and locations as proof of evidence. As a note, this doesn't mean you have to be in a relationship for 2 years. It just means you must have met once within a 2-year period of filing the form. 3. The couple must prove their relationship is valid. Again, similarly, photos together and with friends and family is credible. Anything to show you have a genuine relationship, such as trips taken together or time spent getting to know one another and integrate into each other's lives, counts as proof. 4. Letters of intent to marry within 90 days. Each person must submit a signed letter stating that they intend to get married within 90 days after the fiancé arrives in the U.S. This needs to be 2 separate letters, one by each person. However, we added a third, which was written and signed by both of us. 5. Each partner must be unmarried, so if you've been married before, you'll need to submit evidence of this, such as a divorce certificate. 6. A check payable for $535. It costs $535 as of today to submit the form and has been rumored to increase in the future. This can be sent by check or submitted via bank transfer. However, USCIS is very old school, and the best way to submit this is by check. Just as a note, they do not accept cash, and the check has to be written out in a very specific way, which they have detailed. 7. The U.S. citizen sponsor must meet the income requirements. Proof of this isn't needed until a later stage in the process. However, it's worth knowing that there is another form, the I-134 Proof of Financial Support, that needs to be filled in and taken to the visa interview, proving that the U.S. petitioner has enough income to support their fiancé financially. The guidelines of the income requirements are provided on their website. 8. Passport photos, U.S. size 2 by 2 inches. One colored passport size photo of both the petitioner and the beneficiary is required. Full names must be written on the back of the photo lightly with either a pencil or flat pen. I suggest writing in block capitals to ensure it's eligible to read. 9. The G1145 e-notification of application petition acceptance. This form isn't a must and is completely optional, but I highly recommend filling it in to receive email updates on your petition. In addition, we did submit photocopies of my partner's passport and inside pages too. We tried to include as much relevant documentation as we could to make the process a lot more convenient for USCIS, should they, for whatever reason, need the information. Your passport stamps entering the USA to see your U.S. petitioner could be deemed as useful proof of evidence as to visiting your fiancé. When filling out the I-129F form, it was also useful to have the following on hand: both the petitioner and the beneficiary's personal details, including passport details, social security number, current and previous address history, plus employment histories. The form also asks for information about your parents, their names, date of birth, place of birth, and current residency. Any previous spouse information, if applicable. The beneficiary's I-94 record, if currently in the USA. Any details of the children of the beneficiary, again, if applicable. The above form needs to be mailed to either of these addresses and cannot be completed online. I highly suggest sending it via FedEx recorded delivery to make sure it has been delivered and not lost, and you can specifically track it has reached USCIS. In addition, never send original documents, as you won't get them back, and you should make a duplicate of everything you're submitting, including the I-129F form, as a backup copy. And this will all be sent to the California Processing Center. Step 2 is when you'll receive a notification that USCIS has received your application, which is usually within 1 week. It's called the Notice of Action 1, NOAA 1, Form I-797, and you'll receive this in the mail along with an email if you completed the G1145 form. This will have your case number so you can track your application status. You can track your case status by entering your case number beginning with WAC on the USCIS Tool Tracker website or using a case tracker app. The website Track My Visa Now also provides an estimate of the cases USCIS is currently processing and when to expect a date to hear back by. Step 3 is when the U.S. petitioner receives a notification that your petition has been approved and is called the Notice of Action 2 or NOAA 2. According to Track My Visa, the current wait time is approximately 9 to 11 months for USCIS to process current applications and 6 months for newly filed applications. Now, being apart from your partner can be incredibly challenging, but my only advice for you is to be as productive as you can to prepare for the next steps involved within the K1 visa process. And this is exactly what we did. This is where you can start getting your medical records in order. In order to enter the U.S. on the K1 and to eventually become a green card holder, that is for adjustment of status, you need to have certain vaccinations, so it's worthwhile checking that you have had these, and if not, ensure you get them. For example, hepatitis B is a 3-dose vaccination that takes up to 6 months to complete. So rather than wait until the NOAA 2 is approved and then further delay your visa process, it's the perfect time period to be proactive and complete items that you'll need in the future. You're also going to need proof that you've had these vaccinations from your doctor, and at least in the UK, you can go to the doctor and ask for a medical summary where they're able to print out a list of all the vaccinations you've had, which can take to your medical exam, which occurs in step 8. In my partner's case, there were some vaccinations he needed, so he went and got them and had them added onto his records. Similarly, if you've lived in any other country for more than 6 months, you'll need a police clearance report from that country. So for example, he's from the United Kingdom and lived in the USA for 1 year, so he needed to obtain a FBI clearance from the USA. This police report will be used at a later stage, such as for the visa interview, but depending on the country you lived in, it can take a month or so for it to be processed and arrive to you, so it's better to get started now. Before receiving your NOAA 2, you may also receive an RFE, which is a request for evidence. And that could be anything USCIS deems they just need further information on, or something you may have filled in incorrectly or forgotten to include. So for instance, they may just ask for further proof of your relationship. This means you're on the way to being approved, and they may take another week or two to review the new evidence sent over to them. Step 4 is when USCIS sends over your case to NVC, the National Visa Center. And this is where they're preparing your visa application to send to the U.S. Embassy in your country. At step 5, the NVC then assign a case number where you're able to check the progress of this via the Consular Electronic Application Center website. It'll either show at NVC, in transit, step 6, meaning your case is on the way to the United States Embassy of choice, or ready, step 7. Your case has been received and ready for the interview. The NVC process can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months. As soon as you receive your case number, I suggest applying for your police clearance, which is needed from countries where the sponsored fiancé has lived for more than 6 months, including their country of residence. In our case, as my fiancé is from the United Kingdom, he's required to apply for a police certificate from Acro Criminal Records Office, and this can roughly take 30 days to process. But this will be country-specific to your country of residence. However, in short, this form costs approximately $60, is an online application form, and needs to be issued less than 6 months before your visa interview. Once your case is ready, you can begin step 8, which is submitting the DS-160 form and booking your medical interview. Both steps coincide with each other. The DS-160 is an online form and needs to be filled out by the non-American fiancé, and in short, this is the application that grants you an interview for the K1 visa to enter the USA. I'll post a video on absolutely everything you need to know about the DS-160 and a step-by-step guide as to how to fill it in accurately, as well as assembling the documents required, enabling you to create a packet for the embassy appointment. The cost of processing the DS-160 is $265 and will require a lot of the same information as the initial I-129F form required, and this is again why we chose not to use a lawyer or third-party company, as this form is somewhat repetitive of the initial application. This is why it's also useful to keep a copy of your original application form, as you'll be inputting the same information once again, such as personal information about yourself and your partner, previous travel to the USA, passport information, and prior work information, etc. It is filled out online by the beneficiary, i.e. the non-U.S. citizen, and although you can attempt to start filling it out when your NVC case is in transit, just bear in mind you only have 30 days to ultimately complete the application once you begin, hence why I suggest completing it once your case is ready. Furthermore, if anything changes, such as a change of address or the beneficiary gets a new job, you have to file a new form, so it's best to just wait until all the information you're entering is as accurate as possible. After submitting the form, you can book and pay your embassy appointment. Before attending the embassy appointment, you'll need to go through an in-person medical exam. So book your interview based on your medical appointment appropriately, as it'll take approximately 5 days for your medical results to automatically be sent to the U.S. Embassy. As mentioned, in order to enter the U.S. on the K1 and to eventually become a green card holder, i.e. for adjustment of status, you need to have certain vaccinations. The medical exam is probably country-specific. However, in the UK, you are required to take your passport, your police certificate, ACRO, the appointment letter from the U.S. Embassy, a completed medical questionnaire from the medical company's website, 4 passport-size photos, glasses or contacts if applicable, a medical summary of your vaccination records, and any personal health issues that you'd like to disclose. At the medical exam, they'll conduct a physical exam of your eyes, ears, heart, lungs, joints, conduct a chest x-ray, blood test, urine test, as well as discuss your vaccination records. They are able to give you any vaccinations should they be needed. However, it may end up being more expensive than getting them done elsewhere. Step 9 is your embassy interview. The U.S. Embassy website provides a rough guide of documents and items you'll need to bring, and it's worthwhile checking that out in case items differ from your country specifically. My biggest advice would be to prepare all these documents as far in advance as you can. If you're currently in the process of waiting for your NOAA 2, then now is the best time to start compiling as many documents as you can. For example, the original copy of your birth certificate or preparing further proof of your relationship. Here's a list of items that you'll need for the visa interview. Not all these items are essential, but I thought I'd include our own personal list of documents as we like to be thorough and have as much relevant paperwork to hand, including photocopies of each item just in case. Your DS-160 interview confirmation page with proof of payment, the NVC interview letter, your passport and photocopy, 2 US-size passport photos, the original copy of your birth certificate and photocopy, your sealed medical exam if not already sent automatically to the embassy, police certificates and police clearance from all countries you've lived in for more than 6 months from the age of 16, divorce or death certificates of any previous spouses, your I-94 travel records, a copy of your initial I-129F, a copy of NOAA 1 and NOAA 2, an updated signed letter of intent to marry from both of you, and continuous evidence of your relationship, such as photos, plane tickets, receipts, call logs, and potentially evidence of wedding planning. From your petitioner, you'll need a photocopy of their passport page, a photocopy of their birth certificate, the Form I-134 Proof of Financial Support, plus evidence for that form, such as their tax transcripts and a statement from their employer confirming their proof of employment. The I-134 Proof of Financial Support is a separate form itself, which needs to be filled out by the U.S. fiancé and requires additional documents as proof along with it. It's worthwhile for you and your fiancé to take a look at that form while waiting for the NOAA 2, as it's something you'll need for your visa interview. The U.S. petitioner does not need to attend the interview, and they'll not be allowed into the embassy. The interview for the K1 visa is solely for the beneficiary. At the interview, some example questions that you could be asked are, when and how did you and your fiancé meet? What are your plans for getting married? Where does your fiancé live now? What does your fiancé do for work? How many times have you and your fiancé met? When was your most recent visit to see them? Who proposed to who and when? And what shared interests do you have? At step 10, they will take your passport and your visa will be issued, which normally takes around 1 week to receive. Step 11 is when you're now approved and you can schedule your flight and travel to the USA. You'll receive a large sealed envelope or packet of documents to hand over when you arrive into the USA. You must not open this packet as it's for the CBP officer to open. You'll now be entering on the K1 visa and you have 90 days to get married. If you do not get married within 90 days, you may be asked to leave the US. Once you're married, you can now finally apply for your adjustment of status, which allows you to legally travel and work in and out of the country with a conditional 2-year green card. The forms never stop, and you essentially begin a brand new process of forms and waiting for them to be approved. The good news is that a lot of the information you're filling out is just repeated consecutively, but just on different forms. Some of the forms you'll be filling out are the I-485 application to register permanent residence, the I-864 affidavit of support, the I-765 application of employment authorization, the I-131 application for travel, the I-693 report of medical exam and vaccination record. Also, it's worthwhile bearing in mind there'll be other items and forms of paperwork you'll need to complete, such as getting a social security number, U.S. driver's license, health insurance, bank or credit cards, and so much more. Everyone's K1 visa process will vary depending on your own circumstances, but everything I've shared is the rough process each individual will go through. If you feel like there's anything I've missed or new up-to-date information and anything I can help you with, please feel free to drop it in the comments.